Good morning. We're learning as a schusser for Shlema, Bilan Chaya Baserach, and for Meir ben Cyril Peril. We are up to Daf Nun Amud Aleph. We are about 12 lines down. First word on line is Tanya. Tanya, Shimon Gamliel Omer, B'nei Me'ayin Shenikvu, intestines that got a hole in it, so that the din is that it's generally a treifa. And the liquid, the fluid, but blocks the hole. Kshera, it's kosher. That alleviates the problem of the hole. My lecha, what is this liquid? Merav Kahana, shirka de ma'aya. The nafik agav duchka. It's a mucus that's inside of the intestines, and the force of the intestines is a lot going on and things pushing through. It pushes out the mucus, and then the mucus stops the hole and makes it a kosher. It's not a treifa. The chaverim of Rabbi Abba learned from Rabbi Abba, Umanu Reb Zera. This is referring to Reb Zera. Va'ami lechaver de Reb Zera. Reb Zera, and some people have it that the chaverim of Reb Zera heard from Zera, Umanu Rabbi Abba. Breder of Chia bar Abba, that they said Amr. There's different versions of this next part. Amr Reb Abba, Breder of Chia bar Abba. Hachi Amr Rabbi Yochanan. This is what Rabbi Yochanan said. Halacha Reb Shimon Gamliel betreifa. Halacha Reb Shimon be'evel. Bavel. Halacha is like Reb Shimon Gamliel legabe the din of treifa, and halacha is like Reb Shimon legabe avelis. Halacha Reb Shimon Gamliel betreifa hadamar. And this is this halacha that we just said, that a hole, a nekev in the bnei me'ayin that was stuffed up with mucus is not going to be a treifa. Reb Shimon be'evel mahi. What's that halacha like Reb Shimon and avelis? The Tanan. Kol shloshi yom harishonim. The entire first 3 days of an avelis. That means there was a family of brothers, let's say, that were all sitting avelis. They were sitting shiva for their father, and they had a brother who was not aware of his father's patira. So for the first 3 days that the rest of the family, the others, are sitting shiva, Bobby Malcolm Karev, if the brother did not hear about the avelis, was within a 1 day's travel from these other brothers, the Maini Iman, if he comes and joins them and he finds out about that, then he starts the avelis from the same time that they started. He doesn't have to do an extra, let's say he came 2 days in, he doesn't have to add on 2 days at the end. He's going to get up at the same time. We say, the way Rashi says it is, since he could have found out from them. So, where is it? In the first wide line, he wasn't together. Within 1 day's travel, and he could have found out on that day, even though he wasn't told. He's part of the avelis, right? It was just a practical step that didn't take place, but he be'etzem was part of the avelis since he was nearby. As long as he comes within 3 days, then he can count together with them. So continue with the Gemara. But if he's coming from far away, from more than a day's travel, then he has to count on his own, because then he wasn't really part of the avelis. There was no practical way for him to have found out. It wasn't so easy to communicate. You would have had to send a rider to let him know. By the time he would have gotten to him, that's not considered to be that he's part of the avelis. Mikan ve'elach, but after the third day, afilu babi malkum karev ma'inel atzmai. If he didn't make the effort to find out, he's going to have to, if he's from far away, he's going to have to start his Avelis from fresh, even if he was within 1 day's travel. That is the Tanakama. Shimon disagrees. He says, doesn't make a difference where in the Avelis they're up to. He counts his own Shiva. Amar Mandahu, someone that we don't know who it was who said this. Iski ve'esek ve'agri l'shmaisim puma demara. He said, I hope I could be zoicha to hear this this shita from the man Amar who said it. Kisolek ashke l'Rabba breder of Chia Barabba. He found Rabba, the son of Chia Barabba. Amalei Amar Mar halacha Reb Shimon Gamliel betreifa. Did you say that halacha is like Reb Shimon Gamliel? L'gabi treifa, that if it gets stuffed up with mucus, that it's not going to be a treifa? Amalei ha ein halacha amri. He said, no, that was incorrect. I actually said exactly the opposite. They said the halacha is not like him. Reb Shimon be'evel. Did you say that halacha is like Reb Shimon lavelis? Mai? What's the din? Amalei pluktaninu. It's a machlekes with halachas like him. The itmer of Chizdam halacha, v'chein Reb Yochanan halacha, Reb Nachman Amar ein halacha. Reb Chizda and Reb Yochanan say the halacha is like Reb Shimon, and Reb Nachman says it's not. Ein halacha Reb Shimon Gamliel. The bottom line is that the halacha is not like Reb Shimon Gamliel, but treifa. Halacha Reb Shimon be'evel. But we do pass like Reb Shimon Gabi Avelis. Amar Shmuel halacha devei mekel be'evel. The Gabi Avelis we go lekula, since it's a suffix. We go lekula. We pass like Reb Shimon that a person doesn't have to do extra Avelis even if he's past the 3rd day. If he's within 1 day's travel, he can join the other Avelim and he can stop Avelis earlier, which is a kula. Amrav Simi Barchia. Mekivim b'bnei me'ayim. We learned the din of hakafa, which is a procedure when they find some kind of blot or flaw in organs of an animal that was shechted. What you do is you make a hole, a new hole in that organ, and you see if it looks like this hole, this flaw that you saw before. If they look similar, then you could say that this hole, this nekev, was also occurred after shechita, because the appearance of a hole depends on whether it was before shechita or after. It changes from the animal's alive to one that happens after it's dead. So by making a new hole and comparing it, you can see if the hole that you found was a hole that occurred after shechita or before.
And this is only in the Bnei Mayim or in general, or all.
We saw it before. We saw about the Ray. He's saying you could say the same thing in Bnei Mayim. We had seen before, like Lagabi. I think it was Lagabi, the lungs. He's going to chadish the same thing by the intestines. Hanu Bnei Mayim the asul kamei de Rava. Then there was such a case that the intestines with the nekev came to Rava. Akfinu v'lo. He compared it, and they were not similar. So he said, "Oh, we have to make a treifa because this could have happened before the animal died." Also, Rav Misharshia Brei, the son of Rava, Rav Misharshia came. He handled this raya, this intestines. And after he was busy with it, like just mushing it around, the new hole started to look like the old hole, the hole that they were trying to test. Amalei minalach. He said, "Where did you get this idea that by handling it, that will change the look and demonstrate that they really are both from after shechita?" Amalei kama yadim misham mimash mishay bahani. He said, listen, I know that when someone's bringing a shaila to you, it was probably passed around the Beis Medrash by 15 people. First it went to the local Rav. It was the mashgiach in the factory, and the shlachtais, the butcher looked at it, and this guy looked at it, and that guy looked at it. By the time it got to you, many people handled it. So of course, if you make a fresh hole, it's not going to look like the thing that's been handled. So handle the new hole, and then see if it looks the way the hole that you're trying to test for it was. He said, Chacham Bri B'Tarvus Rabbi Yochanan. My son is as big a Chacham. He's absolutely right, and he's as big a Chacham as Rabbi Yochanan. He said he was masking to the Svar. B'Yochanan Rebbe Lazar the Ami Chavayu Makifin Bereya. You also do this hakaf, this comparison by a lung. Amarava, loyamaran elaba aruga. That which you could compare in the lung, there are restrictions. You can't just take any nekev and compare it with a nekev in a different part of the lung. It has to both be in the same line of nodes. The nodes would have different. There were, I think, 3 on one side and 2 on the other. Plus, there was the small ones and the big ones. It has to be in the same row of nodes of the lung. Different arugas have different appearances, so you can't compare them. I guess that would mean that even if they look similar, it could be because they only look similar. One could have been before the shechita, and one could be after, but because they're in different arugas, they look similar. But the Gemara says, Allah is we don't worry about that. As long as it's part of the lung, you could do the hakafa. Bidaka ladako migasa lagasa, but it has to be from a small one to a small one to a large one to a large one. So Rashi has 2 different pshatim. Either it could mean from a large animal you have to compare to another large animal, or it could mean from a large node you have to compare to another large node. You can't compare the small nodes to the large nodes. It doesn't have to be in the same row, but they do have to be the same type of nodes of the lungs. You can't compare different size holes in different sizes of the either of the animal or of the lungs, of the section of the lungs. They say you could also do a comparison in the kana, in the trachea. That which we say, if you remember, we had all the way at the beginning, we had a discussion of the construction of the trachea, that it was made up of these different rings. If you remember, the knife had to go in between the rings. So a group of 3 rings, Rashi says, is called a chulya. It was called a uniform band. So it's only if the 2 holes, you make a hole. I guess you have to make the second hole in the same section of the kana. But you can't compare different bands. They change as the trachea goes along. The halacha is that we don't respect that distinction, even if it's in different cholyas. The cholya, it refers to a band, and the bar cholya is talking about in the vertical, when you have a trachea. As we said, the trachea is not a uniform circle of whatever it is, the cartilage that makes up the trachea. On one side it's thicker, the other side it's thinner. On the thinner side, there's something that fills that gap. It's more like a horseshoe shape bone. And then in the other end, it's filled with some kind of flesh-like substance. So he says you can't compare the holes on the thicker side to the thinner side. The thinner, or the part that's open, that's filled with the cartilage, that you can't compare a hole in that to a hole on the top. You can't compare going across the different cross sections of the actual trachea. Amar Ziri, halachulis shenikva. Lachulis is the part of the animal where the waste comes out of. Ksher, it's kosher. Even if there's a hole in it, it's kosher. Since it's very constricted by the animal's bone structure around it, there's no place for the waste to come out. Even if there's a hole, it still moves through, and it's not going to make the animal to treif. It's not going to kill it. But how much of that section of that tube is going to have that din that it's not going to be a treifa with a hole? It's the part that is that's attached, meaning that it has the back end of the animal surrounding it closely. If it has to be that roiv of the lachulis, what is it called? Chalchulis. Right, but the chalchulis is torn. But once you get past the part that is fully enclosed, v'mashu, then it has the din. Then a neck of a v'mashu will allow waste into the animal's abdominal cavity, which will give it sepsis and kill it. Amru Rabbanan Kamei de Rav Mishmei de Rav Nachman. They said over to Rav in the name of Nachman this halacha. Amar Lami Aminach Leisachlu Bei Buki Sriki. Didn't I tell you not to hang empty kalim on Rav Nachman? Meaning, don't say things b'shem Rav Nachman that he never said. Hachi Amar Rav Nachman. This is what Rav Nachman really said. Makom advak afil nitul kulay kosher. The makom that's fully surrounded, that where it's the tube is very constricted, even if the whole chalchulis is gone, it's kosher. But there has to be enough left of it that you could grab. As long as there's a finger's worth of the chalchulis left, that in a ox, I guess in different animals, it will be a different amount, but for an ox, it has to be at least one finger's worth. So the Mishnah had said, Hakaris hapnimi. We had said, let's look quickly back at the Mishnah, because we said something a little different finally. Hakaris hapnimi shenikva. If the keres hapnimi is the first stomach that the food goes into after the esophagus, after the veshet, if it got a hole in it, so if it's the inner keres, it's a nekev. If the keres hachitzayna got most of it, it has to have a roiv rip. That's going to be a treif. Yehuda Eimer. The next Gemara is going to discuss Rabbi Yehuda says it's not a roiv really. If it's a gedola, it's a tefach, and a ktana, then it's beruba. Okay, so let's see our Gemara now. Hakaras apnimi. Rabbi Yehuda Amarav. Heyed Nasim bar Shila reish tavched tzipayri. Nasim, the son of Shila, who was the head of the butchers in Tzipayri, lifnei Rabbi. He said in front of Rabbi Mishum Rav Nasan, in the name of Rav Nasan, Ezu hi keres apnimi. What is this inside keres that we say that a nekev makes it possible, and the keres achitzan is only with the roiv. So he said Sanya Divi. It's what Rashi says, the part of the keres that's hated by wolves. Meaning it's the Rashi explains it's a keres apnimi is a small section of the intestines that collects the waste, and it's hated by wolves. Meaning even the most disgusting animal that will eat anything, they won't eat this organ from a dead animal, because it's so full of waste, and therefore it makes sense that even if it has a nekev in it, that will definitely make the animal a treifa, because it's so concentrated, the waste inside of it. Yeshua ben Karcha. I'm sorry. Yeshua ben Karcha Sanya Divi. He also says it's this part of the animal, this little pouch that collects waste. Yeshua Amar is tumcha de karsa. Rabbi Shmuel says it's tumcha de karsa. And Rashi, what does Rashi say about istumcha de karsa? Ani shemati istumcha balaz ve'eni yadei hamau. Rashi says, I don't know what it is. It's like istumcha sounds like a stomach. It's some kind of stomach of the keres of this first stomach. It has its own little pouch, I guess, a little stomach, but I'm not sure exactly what it refers to. Ravasi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Makom Sar Yesh Bekeres Ve'eni Yadei Ezu. Ravasi Amar Rabbi Yochanan says that there's a narrow place in the as part of the keres, but I don't know. Like Rashi said in the last one, the Amira says I don't know where it is. Nafal karsa babira. He says if you're going to say, tell me a definition, and you say you don't know what it means, you're just making things worse. We don't know. I don't know what he means. Maybe he means to say you've thrown it into a pit. I guess the idea is that we're going to have to be chayshish that everything is this keres hapnimi that has to be. You have to be chayshish for a nekah. Amr Rav Acha bar Rav Ava. So Rav Acha bar Ava tries to save the situation. Amr Rav Asi min hameitzer olamata. It means from the part of when you hold an animal upside down, which is very often the way we refer to the animal by yeshchita. So at the point where the keres starts approaching the veshet, where the food comes in, so that at that point it starts narrowing. So that's what we mean when we say the makam tsar yesh bekeres. It means the part where the food comes in from. It starts narrowing. Yaakov ben Achmeni Amar Shmuel makam she'ein boy milas. It's a place that doesn't have milas, which Rashi says is like a kind of a hairy section. It's not what we talked about before. The hair at the end of I think that was by the kana. This is a different hair that they would scrape off from the inside before it was edible. So a place that doesn't have these milas, that was called the keres hapnimi. That's possible with a neck. Ravina Amar Gneva Mishmei derav. Avina said Gneva said b'shem Rav tefach beveshet samach lekeres zui keres hapnimis. He said it's a tefach of the veshet that's near the keres, so it's really part of the veshet. The veshet we know is also with the nekev, so that's what we refer to when we say the keres hapnimi. Amir Mamarav Mishmei Rav Yosef Bachanina Kol keres kulay zui keres hapnimis. They say the whole keres is really the keres hapnimi. Bezu keres hachitzon. What was the keres? The keres hachitzon was the part that was different, that it didn't need just a neck of it, needed a robot. That's basar achayv ezroiva keres. That's the meat that surrounds it. So if that got a nekev would not passel and not make it a treifa, but if most of it was torn, that would make it a treifa. Rabbi Bar Huna Ama mafrasa says it's the mafrasa. My mafrasa Maravavia hecha de baroi tavchi. The place that the tavachim cut open, meaning the part of the what's called the keres hachitzin, that means the part that's literally the outside of the keres, where they would cut open the animal from the outside. So if roiv of that was torn open, that would be a treifa. But if it was just a neck of there that's in the basar, it wouldn't be a treifa. Benardo avdi karaba baravuna. They did like this last pshat. They said that the whole keres was with a nekev. A nekev would make it a treifa, and it's just the meat outside of it. Amalei Ravashi lamemer kol hani shmaitzamai. What about all the other shittas that we had said? How come we're ignoring them? Amalei kulu shaykhem b'derab ravuna. They all are included. He said that everything other than the mafrasa is considered the keres hapnimi. All these things that they said are all included in that as well. So that they said that you're going to be chayiv for a nekev. It's going to be a treifa with a nekev. Zaktamaro, the Rav Asi Amar Rav Yochanan Mai. What about Rav Asi Amar Rav Yochanan? Which one was Rav Asi Amar Rav Yochanan? Makom tsar yesh bekeres v'eni yedei ezu. What about that? Since we don't know what it is, how could you be sure that's included? Amalek Kfar Pisha Rav Acha bar Ava. Rav Acha bar Ava had said that was a reference to a part of the veshet near the veshet, which is also included, right? We're saying everything other than the meat, the whole entire kairos is going to be included. What about Ravina and the Bnei Marava that they had said, I think the section off of the intestines that's not part of the keres. It's also it's a part that's not the veshet, but they said the keres itself is going to be good, but we didn't talk about that keres apnimi. And we said Marava so you didn't address that. They definitely certainly are maskim, they're going to have to be chaylik. Because the keres achitzin is a different keres achitzin. So the Mishnah had continued. Rabbi Yehuda said we said that in the keres achitzin it has to be a nekev is going to be pasul, and the keres apnimi a nekev is going to be pasul. It's going to be a treifa, and the keres achitzin it's going to be berubai. Yehuda says it depends. B'gdayla it's a tepach, was a ktana, it's rubai. Amr bin Yom Bar Yafes, Amr Abelazar, loy g'dayla g'dayla, maj like ktana ktana mamish. He's not coming to say that we have different shitas for a large animal and a small animal. Ela kolsha nikra ba tefach, loy haviruba zui sheshaninu b'gdayla tefach. What he really meant to say is you have to have that it's ripped either a tefach or roiv. So an animal that has a kriya that's ripped for a tefach, that's called a large animal. That if a tefach is not a roiv, that means that's what we call a large animal. So it was his way of saying that you need the smaller of a tefach or roiv. Whichever one is ripped, that's going to be a treifa. So that the one that a tefach is less than a roiv, that's called a g'dayla. Lo yavi tefach zu shenina b'ktana beruba. But if the cut is less than a tefach, but it's still a roiv, that's what we call a ktana. Ruba v'lo yavi tefach pshita. So the Gemara, what's the chiddush then to tell you that if it's either a tefach or roiv? What do we have to tell you that by a katana, if it's roiv, it's going to be pasul, it's going to be a treifa. L'chayra, this is it's clear. If a tefach that's less than a roiv is going to be a treifa, certainly if it's more than roiv. So Gemara loy tzricha the havia tefach b'mashu, where it's a little bit, it's a tefach, but it's a little bit less than roiv. So I might say that over there you need to have. I'm going to say, which way is that? What was this? Let me just look at it. This is like it doesn't really make so much sense, so it's hard to remember. Rub Shita Rui. Okay, so loy tzricha to have a tefach mashu. You have a mashu tfei miruba, have a mikra tefach, where it's it was roiv done, but it wasn't quite a tefach. I might say in that case, you have to wait for a tefach. A roiv is not enough. And that's what the chiddush is, that no, that a roiv by itself, even though it's not a tefach, is enough. Which is a shver svar. It's hard to understand why that should make a difference, that you're just a little bit less than a tefach. I guess you would say that it's classified, since it's so close, a roiv is close to a tefach, it's classified as a gedayla, and a gedayla needs to be a tefach, or the other way around. Now, even by a gedayla, you need a ruba, since it's just barely big enough to be a gedayla.
So it's roiv, but it's less than a tefach.
No, I think the other way around. It's a tefach, but it's just a little bit less than roiv. So you'd say you still have to follow the rules of a katana, which is beroiv, even though, is that right? No.
I'm not sure.
It's the other way around. We're talking about where it has a roiv. Yeah, it's a little bit less than a tefach, but it is a roiv. Right. So you might say, since it's a roiv, maybe we'll treat it as a, even though it's a roiv, maybe we'll treat it as a gedol that it needs a tefach. Kamashmal on that now. Again, like I said, it's the Mefarshim have a hard time understanding what the svar is. So that's why I'm having a hard time remembering it, because I don't really chap the svar, I'm just saying the words. Amr Gnev Amr Avasi. Niktara Kisela Treif. If there's a hole that that is open from the keres hachitzon, which we said you need a roiv or a tefach. If it has this hole the size of a sella, meaning that a sella could fit through it, it's a trefish. Tamad alav tefach. Because if you'll stretch out a hole of a sella, make it into a slit, it will be a tefach. Amavad and Hardah, we were standing on the bridge by Hardah. Kesela Kshera, if it's the same size as a sella, it's Kshera. Yasa Mikasela Trefa, but if it's more than a sella, it's Trefa. The Kama Yasa Mikasela, how much is more than a Kasela? Amr of Yosef, could go in the island Tlas Kash Yasa Betzifa, the Duchka, if you could fit 3 date pits that still have some of the flesh of the fruit on it by pushing it through. But loitzipa, if it doesn't have any of the flesh on it, beravcha, it has to be able to fit through. It's a little less, it's a little smaller. It has to fit through easily to be a tefach, or the size of a sella, which is going to be possible. Hamasas ubeisakaisis. These are the two sections. I believe it's the second and the third section stomachs of the cow. Tanraban. If it goes through both sides of the two layers of the wall of these two avarim, of these two organs, it's going to be pasul. If it only goes through one, if it doesn't go through the outer, it's going to be kosher. It's not a treifa. But if you find a dot of dam on this needle that went through one hole, but you find a dam on the other side, you know that this happened before shchita.
But does that change the fact that you needed to be going through both walls or not?
No, we're saying even if it went through both hole, even if it went through both holes, it's still going to be kosher if you find the dam of it, because you say even though there was a nekev, that nekev, the dam only is there if the nekev happened after the shchita.
Even if only went through one wall.
I'm sorry, bidush of shchita, then it certainly happened. No, if you find the dam, even if it's one, no. If it's two, if it's one, there's no nekev, so we don't care that it happened before shchita. But if it went through both walls, if you find the dam, that confirms that it's going to be a treifa. If it went through both walls, but you don't find a spot of dam, you know what happened after shchita, even though it's something that would, it's enough to make it that it's a treifa, but we say it happened after shchita, so that saves it. The lack of dam saves this animal. Higlid pihamaka. This is now we're talking about hilchas mominus. If you got a scar tissue where the hole is, but you do which this is like we said, the scar does not save the animal. It's still a treifa once there's a nekev. It doesn't. Any krum, a krum is any krum. So if that happened, then you know that this happened 3 days before the shechita. The treifa was there for at least 3 days before the shechita, and the person who bought this animal, we're assuming he bought it after that point, before he bought it and brought it right away to the teshech. So this chesaron was there before he bought it. So it's a mekach tais. He could go get a refund. Lo higlit piamaka. But if you don't have a scar, he can't get a refund because the seller can tell him, as far as I know, it happened after you bought it. Umayshna mikol nekuva di alma, the afagav the lekadam tarif. Why do we said that over here you're only going to passel the nekev that went through these two, the masas, the amasas and the base kaisis. If there's a dam that we could tell that tells us that it happened before shechita, but if not, without that, we say it happened afterwards. Why don't we have that same chiluk by other nekavim? We only said it on this one, this neck of this qualification. So Maisha Mikol Nekuva Di'alma Davagav Deleka Dam Tarif Mar. We say it's a treifa. Over here, there's a foreign object there, so that somehow causes the blood to stay. Causes misrach usually means to cause it to spoil. So that would cause, I guess, the dam to go out or the dam to stay around. But over here, since there isn't a needle, the kodim shchita who misrach havasarach, the dam would have come out. It would have caused the I guess it would have caused the irritation and the infection, and you would have had the dam. You see this young man who's coming from Eretz Yisrael. Amar Rabbi Avira Shamani. He said, "My name is Rabbi Avira." Amar Maisa Balafnei Rabbi Machat Shenutz Ba'uvi Beis HaKaisus. They found this case of a needle that was found in the Beis HaKaisus mitzad echad, and it only went through half of it. It didn't go all the way through. V'tarfa, and Rabbi said it was treifa. So he said, I want to speak to this person who's saying this chiddush. Avira did not answer his summons. Azal hu legabe. So Abaya went to him. Havakoya igra. He was standing on the roof. Amar nechas ma v'nesi. Come down and let me talk to you. V'loy nachas. He wouldn't come down. Salakul gabe. He went up to him. Amle emeli gufa dov de hechi hava. What was this case that you're saying about that there was a machat that wasn't all the way through, that he said it's treifa. Amle mafter nisasan elilah Rabbi Rabba. I was the person who let people into the chaburas, to the shiurim of Rabbi Rabba. V'havi Rav Huna Tzipayra of Rabbi Yochanan Madah, Huna from Tzipayri and Rabbi Yosef from Madah. Yoshan Lefanov, they were sitting in front of him. Basel Fnei Rabbi Machat Shenimtzes Ba'oy Beis HaKaisus. They brought this case to him. Mitzad Echad, and only went halfway through, not all the way through. V'havcha Rabbi turned it inside out. He looked at the outside. It had already been turned inside out one time. Now he put it the right way so you could see the outside of the Beis HaKaisus. He found a bit of dam, the tarfa, and then he said it's treifa because the only way the dam was there is if it went all the way through. He said there's no hole that went all the way through. Then where would this dam come from? You caused me to go schlep after you. Wouldn't answer and you wouldn't come, and I had to schlep after you. We already said in the Mishnah this din that since you have the kaira dam, you know that it went all the way through, and that's why it's possible. It's a treif. Okay, we'll stop over here. I'm sorry. I really lost track of time. I apologize.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
That's correct.